Please note, the following story contains very graphic and disturbing content. Viewer discretion is advised. Prologue. Jeff McInnes awoke from an unexpected slumber in the middle of the afternoon. He had fallen asleep watching a news program about a group of armed hostiles taking over a hospital. Police had been dispatched to the scene, and the last thing he remembers is watching a news crew get gunned down on camera. He remembers waiting for the call and not getting it until the moment he awoke. Lieutenant Jeffrey McInnes answered the phone and anticipated the response. His supervisor, Derek Walsh, made the call.
"We need you down here. We're going in. Be here in an hour."
"Yes, sir," Lieutenant McInnes responded. It would take half an hour to arrive at the station. He needed to pack up quickly. He turned off the TV and headed upstairs to get dressed. He opened his closet and pulled out his uniform. After getting it on, he went out to the garage to get his personal gear. He removed his 15-inch combat knife and attached it to a harness on his uniform. His personal sidearm, a Glock 17, hidden on a waist holster. Besides his personal shotgun, a Mossberg 500, the rest of his gear was at the station. He loaded up the truck and drove off. Upon arriving at the station, more than half the station's force was already dispatched to the location. The parking lot and the garages were empty. He entered the depot where the special weapons and tactics teams were preparing to engage. He approached Walsh, who was giving a briefing to several SWAT and police officers.
"The situation is rapidly spiraling out of control. We have lost contact with those inside, and few remain outside to answer our calls. They have no contact inside the building."
"What do we expect inside?" a sergeant asks. The supervisor answers with a straight look.
"You're going inside a hospital. Expect a lot of civilian staff and patients. We have no contact with the armed group, nor do we know what their intentions are. Regardless, I expect and encourage strict trigger discipline. Identify and subdue hostile targets and detain non-hostiles. Look for any unarmed civilians and neutralize the group. They are dangerously armed and large in numbers, so expect heavy resistance."
McInnes, who is by now apparent to Walsh, asks, "What's the plan of approach then?" The supervisor motions to a map of the building.
"There are 6 entrances to the building. The first, obviously, is the main entrance and lobby. The building has heavy security, so we don't know what to expect on opening the front gate. A good amount of officers were dispatched to the main gate. They reported fire from the building as the first group of officers entered. As more arrived, the fighting got harder until it simply ceased. Only a few officers remain at the main gate. The second entrance is the sky bridge and fire escape to the left side of the building that connects to the city parking garage. Unfortunately, they were able to use explosive charges to demolish the sky bridge, so it's not a possibility. The third entrance is the staff entrance at the back of the building. Fire Team 3 moved in through this location, along with 2 detectives and several officers. We have not heard from them since. The fourth entrance was pointed out by Officer Mendez. The underground parking lot of the facility eventually runs parallel to one of the basement floors of the hospital. If we could break through the wall, we would find a hopefully unguarded but nondiscreet entrance. The fifth entrance is the skylight on the roof of the building. We can guess that they have prepared for that, so it would be a matter of going in loud. Flashbangs down, rappel in."
"The sixth entrance?" McInnes asks.
"The sewers. We noticed the tunnel system runs parallel to the generator room. A service corridor from the sewers leads to the maintenance and generator area. We discovered this on the construction map."
Commissioner Halvez approaches the outside briefing. He wears a brown trench coat and displays a thick black mustache with slicked back hair of the same color. He is tall and rather slender. "So what do we suggest to be the course of action?" he asks.
"Fire Team 1 will make an aerial entrance on the skylight. We'll put a dozen officers and Fire Team 4 at the staff entrance. Fire Team 2 and a dozen more officers to reinforce the position at the main gate. Fire Team 5 will make the breach and clear in the parking lot."
"And of my team, sir?" McInnes asks.
"Fire Team 6 will make a stealth approach through the sewers. Until there is action, no other teams will engage. You will keep in contact and confirm location every 10 minutes. If none of your team respond, we will breach and clear. Now get suited up. Half hour till approach. Don't get the first bunch of idiots involved."
First bunch of idiots was slang for the FBI. Walsh's motto was not getting the FBI involved. Keep the situation contained and controlled so it doesn't become a national issue. It basically meant, Keep it off CNN. Chapter 1. Breach and Clear.
Once you're down the manhole, you'll be moving north. The tunnel leads directly to the surface entrance. Do not move in until you are cleared. And good luck.
Walsh explained to the team as they slide down the manhole. The sewer smelled of waste. The water was thick and mucky. The stench was unbearable. Officer Burnside coughed out, and McInnes explained simply to suffer in silence. Officer Burnside, Richards, and DeLisle form the team's backbone. Sergeants Jeremy Rico and Cliff Hiddleston are executive leaders. McInnes led the team. Team members Burnside, DeLisle, and Hiddleston use the standard issue 9mm MP5 MAC submachine gun. Their MP5s have reflex sights and tack lights, and are extremely lightweight. The slang name MAC derives from a term for machine pistols and SMGs. They carry standard issue Glock 17 sidearms, nicknamed 9s. Hiddleston carries an SPAS-12 shotgun, nicknamed the Boomstick. One of the reasons Hiddleston carried a boomstick was because of the double meaning of large shotgun or large genitalia. Officer Richards favors the heavier, but more powerful and accurate, 45 caliber UMP submachine gun. He carries his personal sidearm, a 45 caliber USP handgun. Sergeant Rico and Lieutenant McInnes carry SIG 556 5.56mm assault rifles, 45 caliber USP sidearms, and McInnes carries his personal Mossberg 550 shotgun. The officers' weapons are suppressed, save the shotguns, which are traditionally reserved for breaches and close-quarters environments. Sergeant Hiddleston took point down the tunnel. With the rest of the team behind him, they all made their way towards the service corridor only a few dozen meters down the tunnel. Their tack lights brightened up the tunnel, and their feet trudged in the shin-deep sewage. Hiddleston motioned to the oncoming stairway that led to the maintenance access. He stepped up the stairway, coming to a chained door. Officer Richards handed a lockpick gun to pick the padlock. Once it was opened, the 6-man fire team moved inside. They heard the mumblings of several voices distant down the hall that they came to, and they disabled their tack lights. Walsh contacted the team.
Are you inside?
Affirmative, McInnes says quietly.
You are clear to move in. Keep it quiet, neutralize threats, and look for signs of civilians. When you make it upstairs, I will give the signal to Fire Team 4. Over and out.
To their right was the generator and a ladder leading up to a maintenance office. Straight ahead was a hallway with rooms and closets to the left and right of the corridor. McInnes motioned for Hiddleston to check the maintenance office. Hiddleston moved up the ladder and entered the alcove before peeking down and giving the all-clear signal. McInnes motioned for the team to move forward. Each member crouched and snuck quietly, peeking to check each room and staying below the windows. 2 shadows approached the end of the corridor where it bisected another hallway. Officer Rico and McInnes aimed down the sights of their SIG 556 rifles. Take the one farthest, to the right of the closest one, McInnes whispers. As the 2 figures appear, wearing ballistic vests and armed with rifles, the 2 officers take the shots. 2 .223 caliber rounds launch from each rifle and enter the cerebrum of each target. The SWAT team moved quickly to identify the targets. Both targets are confirmed dead. They were wearing Kevlar ballistic vests, ski masks, camouflage garments, and armed with AK-47 assault rifles, with high-cap magazines and EOTech sights. These guys have some nice choppers, Rico remarked. The AK-47 was commonly referred to as the chopper for its high power and relative inaccuracy in fully automatic fire, thus chopping an area. In a way, any high-power, rapid-fire, low-accuracy assault rifle was called a chopper, but it was coined with the AK-47. Cut the chatter, McInnes tells him. Just saying, man. Rico investigated the rifles further, discovering that they had fired shots already. These clips are half full, Lieutenant. Probably discharged at the police, Hiddleston remarked. I said, cut the chatter. McInnes motioned to check the surrounding rooms before moving up the stairs. He was as uneasy about this as they were, but there was no reason to start worrying about how bad the situation was. He clutched his rifle harder and moved up the stairs, turning to face the top. As he sat in the middle of the stairs, rifle aimed upward, he motioned for Hiddleston to move up the stairway and onto the first floor. Hiddleston swept up the stairs and peered over the floor, MP5 at the ready. Several bodies lined the room. Clear, he told them. The team moved up and investigated the waiting room. Walls riddled with bullets, chairs overturned, and bodies of both hospital staff and tangos on the ground. Upon closer inspection of the room, a pool of blood trailed from the middle of the floor to an elevator. Burnside investigated the elevator. "Power's still working. Call it?" "Hang on a minute," Rico told him. McInnes and Hiddleston checked the bodies. "All KIA," Hiddleston confirmed. The supervisor cut in.
Confirm. Hostiles in which level and room KIA?
"Confirmed clear, level 1, primary waiting room. 9 hospital staff KIA. Confirmed 7 hostiles KIA," McInnes responded. Hiddleston moved to some of the staff bodies, 3 of which were piled against the service desk. He noticed that there were no visible gun wounds, rather those of a slash from a blade and blunt force trauma. "Boss, no gunshot wounds on any of the staff," he reported.
Confirm, Hiddleston?
The supervisor asks. McInnes checked the tattered bodies of the hostile group. There are visible rips in the ballistic vests and drab they wear, but no visible gunshot wounds or bullet penetrations. McInnes confirms, neither the hostile offenders nor hospital staff suffered from gunshot wounds. Wounds appear to be closer to a stab or slash. Some victims suffered blunt force trauma as if they were slammed into the walls. Amidst the discussion, Burnside and Rico checked the corridors from the waiting room. DeLiesel checked the stairs. Burnside cut in. "Lieutenant, you might want to check this out." McInnes got up from the bodies and stepped towards the first corridor. Burnside was standing in front of the door, blocking the view. McInnes arrived and looked over Burnside's shoulder. Splatters of blood were dispersed rather distantly along the walls, and he lowered his vision to the floor, caught startled by the sight. Disemboweled staff and soldiers, their organs and intestines hanging loosely out of openings in their stomachs. Burnside inspected the bodies. "They were torn apart. I can't imagine what the hell did it," he mumbled. McInnes was still taking in the sight. Hiddleston tapped McInnes on the shoulder. "There's a stairway at the end of each hall. We head upstairs and take both sides of the building?" "Yes," the squad leader replied. McInnes motioned to Burnside and Richards to move with him. Rico, DeLiesel, and Hiddleston would take the other set of stairs. As they stepped through the puddles of blood and gore, Burnside was cursing, muffled by his balaclava. "Suffer in silence," McInnes told him. Burnside tries to dodge the blood splatters on the walls, which are fresh enough to drip onto his shoulders. "Jesus," he whispers. "Yeah, put that on a damn shirt for the squad," McInnes sharply responded. Richards tried to avoid stepping in the guts and on the bodies, but to no avail. He steps inside an exposed stomach cavity of a staff worker, making a splashing noise that sounded close to stepping in a muddy puddle. Intestines got tangled on his boot. Inevitably, his uniform was stained and his boots splashed with internal fluid and blood. He attempted to shake off the intestines before cutting them off with his knife. McInnes knew that this was as much a hostile situation as it was a crime scene, and they were tampering with bodies. It took time, and distracted them as well. After they cleared the first corridor, McInnes motions for them to hit the wall. He cornered the intersecting hallway, his rifle aimed down the hall towards the stairwell. He didn't notice the bodies lined against the wall, nor the trails of blood leading into the rooms lining the corridor. He was completely focused on the set of stairs. He motioned for the team to move up while he had them covered. They took the left and right sides, opening up doors and scanning the hospital rooms, while he crouched and steadied his aim on the stairwell. "Nothing but a mess of blood and equipment. Christ," was the first report from Burnside. The reports to follow were not much different. McInnes didn't want to look. He really didn't want to see what they saw. They moved out of the last rooms and made their way towards the stairs. They stood on both sides of the stairwell entrance, waiting for him to move to the door. He made the lockpick hand motion, and they backed up behind him. He began picking the lock, bouncing the tumblers back and forth to get the door opened. "We are done," he says, as he finally unlocks the door. The 3 of them move in a straight line up the stairs, Burnside on point. The stairwell is close quarters, so Burnside's MP5 gives him an edge in CQB. Richards peeks over with the UMP, and McInnes covers their rear with the SIG-556. They move up the first set of stairs, cornering each stairway carefully. A trail of blood begins from the middle of the stairwell, all the way to the top, and Richards follows it attentively. Once they reach the top of the stairwell, Rico's team reports that they have reached the door and are moving through the east side of the building. Burnside opened the door, which was surprisingly unlocked. The blood trail continued past the door, but stopped in the middle of the hallway, inexplicably. McInnes moved up in front, covering the long hallway with his rifle. He advanced on point, while the rest of the team followed him. They examined the doors, exposed and open, but clear. One thing ran through McInnes' mind as he searched the building. Where the hell are the patients? A genuine concern. They had not encountered even a single body of a patient, although the hospital was less than regularly used in the city, which favored the main hospital in the innermost part of the city. It boasted of a rather large staff, heavy security, and quality medical equipment. However, he would have expected to see a few patients admitted at the hospital. He heard some mumbling in the distance. He whispered on the radio. "Rico, are you silent?" Rico confirmed. "Yes, you hear it too?" "I assume it's in the lab up ahead, end of the hallway. I'll take the right flank, you take the left. Breach and clear. Be mindful of staff, trigger discipline. Dispatch anyone outside." "Affirmative," Rico responds. McInnes and the half of his team moved towards the lab at the end of the hall. They covered the other empty hallways and corridors, not taking time to search them. Once they reached the door, they set a small charge on the hinge. On the first side, Rico flicked his SIG to single shot, so not to endanger civilians with stray fire. He recommends the rest of the squad do the same. Although the shotgun or a fully automatic weapon would be ideal for room clearing, it would always endanger civilians on the other side, and they were always taught against it, unless they were fully aware of the zero hostage probability. Military might get off easier for hostage situations, but not SWAT in an American civilian environment, not when that same American civilian can sue the city for millions. Once the charges are set, they begin counting down. 3, 2, 1, Rico and McInnes whisper in unison. The charges blow, and flashbangs are thrown into the room. McInnes sweats, gripping his gun tightly, waiting for the bang. It's only 2 or 3 seconds after the throw that the flashbangs are set off, but to the squad, the anticipation feels like hours. Immediately after vaulting into the room, both groups of the team immediately identified hostiles. They didn't have time to notice any specific people, only those who were armed and those who weren't. Within 5 seconds, the pops from each suppressed weapon stop, and the smoke clears. 7, 8 confirmed down, 2 unarmed, Rico called out. Burnside leaped onto an unarmed person, preparing to restrain them, while Richards grabbed the second. The supervisor cut in.
"What the hell happened?"
"Breach, room clear, 2nd floor, laboratory," McInnes reported. At that moment, the situation destabilized. "Boss, some of the armed are wearing scrubs," Hiddleston called. "Lieutenant, docs with guns." "Jeff, both types were armed, no patients."
"Lieutenant, confirm."
Supervisor Walsh spoke firmly. "Made a mistake coming here, you stupid idiots." McInnes was dizzy. Maybe it was the rapid movement of the breach followed by the sudden stop of action. Maybe it was the noise. Maybe it was everybody yelling at once. But he heard those words mumbled, from one of the unarmed, very clearly. "Do you even know what's going on?" He shakes it off and grabs the handcuffed doctor. "What did you just say?" he asks violently. The doctor, in teal-colored scrubs, black slicked hair, clean-shaven, and glasses, responds, "How did you get in the building?" "No, what did you just say?" McInnes growls. "Boss, command?" Burnside asks, confused.
"McInnes, we're sending in the team via the staff entrance. Confirm."
No, you can't send any more. You can't make any more openings. You gotta seal this place off," the doctor explains. "What do you mean?" McInnes asks. "Confirm, command. Sergeant Jeremy Rico. We're fine. We have 2 hostages. We could use help. 1st floor is clear," Rico fiercely reports. "The loud noises. It's going to attract them. Don't open this place up. There's a reason we sealed it off," the doctor tells him. Hiddleston observes movement from the hallway, followed by yelling, "Boss! Company!" Several armed mercenaries came from the north corridor and opened fire on the windows of the laboratory. Hiddleston ducked. McInnes was pulled down by Richards. Burnside was crouched with the second hostage. Rico dodged to the edge of the window, ready to return fire. DeLisle was too slow. 7.62mm rounds penetrated the windows, shattering the glass and finding themselves in the ribs, lungs, and throat of Officer DeLisle. He dropped to the ground, already dead, although Hiddleston managed to drag him to the corner and attempted to resuscitate him. As this was happening, Rico was blind firing down the hall with his SIG, McInnes and Burnside prone on the ground, and Richards trying to aim down his sights to get a clear shot. Rico, with his waste of ammunition in automatic firing mode, had managed to eliminate one mercenary whilst fatally wounding another. Richards had straightened his aim by the time McInnes had aimed down his sights at the hall. The mercenaries had taken to cover in the rooms, calling out, "Left flank!" to one another. While Rico and Richards were concentrated in a steady aim, not listening, McInnes shifted his view to the right side of the hall, with a door at the end. One mercenary dodged out of the room, attempting to fire his AK-47, but McInnes dispatched him with a 5.56 burst aimed between the eyes. Before the mercenary hit the floor, he was already dead. The other two mercenaries had taken the right flanks, to the left of the laboratory windows. McInnes had called to Richards and Rico, "Left side!" This time, both squad members aimed to the left, dispatching two mercenaries who had exited out the door quickly. By this time, the quieter doctor had stood up and ran out of the room, catching the attention of Hiddleston. By this time, Hiddleston had already given up on the dead Delisle and ran out of the door to catch the second doctor. Burnside, breaking the silence, aside from combat speech, had screamed, "Officer down!" although only 30 seconds after the event. He was a little late. McInnes, quicker than his previous destabilization, had noticed Hiddleston leaving and moved to pursue. Burnside kept his eyes on the first doctor, telling him to stay put. Rico and Richards moved to investigate the bodies and rooms for any more mercenaries. The supervisor, screaming for a sitrep, was met with silence. Hiddleston, who was already down 3 halls, had set his sights on the doctor, who had reached the end of the hall before the sergeant yelled, "Stop, or I will fire!" The doctor had turned around to face him at this point. The doctor, standing straight, wearing a white lab coat with combed, short blonde hair and a moderate complexion of no more than 30 years old, began to speak. "You're all gonna..." before being cut off by a single shot. Initially, Hiddleston thought it to be the shot of McInnes, who had just turned the corner. The problem was that McInnes' weapon was suppressed. Instead of making the corresponding connection, he was greeted by more hostile fire. McInnes pulled him around the corner. "What the hell's going on, boss?" Hiddleston exclaimed, asking rhetorically. He didn't expect an answer, mostly because McInnes could not possibly know. Instead, the thoughts of the previous doctor's speech entered his mind. Made a mistake coming here. Tried to seal off the exits. Several SWAT officers from Fire Team 4 had already entered the building and were arriving up the stairs. 2 mercenaries stood at the top, firing upon McInnes and Hiddleston, and were caught off guard by the arriving SWAT fire team, who quickly dispatched them. It was only then that McInnes had the slightest clue about the situation. Fire Team 4 reported their objective to clear the 3rd floor. Supervisor Walsh finally broke contact with McInnes.
"You're off for now. Remain in the laboratory with the hostage until we can sweep the place clear. Get your head on straight. Respond. Over."
"Affirmative, sir. Reporting," McInnes responded. "Boss, you alright?" Hiddleston asked. McInnes wondered what exactly was going on. Hospital with no patients, coming to the wrong place, making a mistake coming at all, mercenaries inside. It didn't make sense. Once he arrived at the laboratory, he watched SWAT Teams 4 and 5 enter the stairwell to the 3rd floor. He sat down with the doctor, who was relatively calm. He asked the doctor, "Explain to me what's going on." The doctor sighed, but started, "Look, we have to get out of here." "Start at the beginning." "They came here to clean up, but it just went so wrong. We screwed up." "You didn't see anybody on your way up?" the doctor inquired. "No, why?" Rico asked. "Look, the patients. We did some awful things. We took in people in intensive care and offered meager prices. We took in rehabilitation patients. Anyone to..." "This is Fire Team 4, Lieutenant Wilson. Encountered civilians. Unarmed, bad shape. Need medical evacuation ASAP." "Crap, what's he doing?" The Fire Team 4 commander cut in.
"Say again, Wilson?"
Walsh asks. Gunfire is heard on the radio.
"Wilson, Fire Team 4, come in!"
Walsh demandingly asks. Audible screams on the radio are heard. Some appear to be panicked. Others are violent. "Fire Team 5, the police on floor 1 cut in. "They ambushed us, requesting assistance," before being cut off. The doctor turned to McInnes and said, "It's too late now. They're probably already out of the building." McInnes responds, "Why were the mercenaries here?" "To clean up what went wrong." What's up, everybody? This is the Lone Wolf here. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to part 1 of Hostage Situation. Stay tuned for next Sunday when I will be reading part 2 of this 5-part story. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you're new to my channel. Hit the bell for notifications and join the Lone Wolf Pack. If anybody wishes to reach out to me regarding personal stories, recommendations, advice about the channel, or just to say hello, feel free to leave a comment on any of my videos or send me a DM on any of my social media platforms. There will be links to my email, my Twitter, my Discord server, my Instagram, and my new TikTok in the description. For anybody interested in the music, all of the tracks used in this video will be listed in the description below, along with links to the artists that created them. Until next time, stay spooky. And remember, the hunt begins when the moon is full. See you soon.